is a top, Mummy, unless that's just for the drivers. Oh yeah. That's so open. Yeah. Yeah. Looks like this could be a really expensive boat. How do you know?
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Welcome on board the Millennium Diamond. You can see we've left Westminster and we're just crossing to make a very brief stop. We're going to stop now at the London Eye. We'll be here for 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll start the tour down to the Tower of London. We also go to Greenwich as well, for those of you going down to Greenwich. Along the way, folks, we do pass many places of interest. And if you'd like me to, I'll stand out here with you and I'll point them all out in the form of a commentary. Is that okay? Would you like a commentary along the way? It's a lovely day for it. Life-saving equipment. Life rafts, they're located on the outer roofs of the boat. Life jackets, stored all around the vessel, and they're in compartments that are marked with the green stickers. The crew on board, of course, are fully trained. Me and my friend driving the boat, we're both captains, we're here for your safety. In the very unlikely event of an emergency, ladies and gentlemen, good luck to you all. I'm sure you'll be fine. Now, as I said, along the way, we pass many places of interest, points and bridges. And as I said, what we like to do on this boat, we like to point them out. We do have a computer that does it for us. But it's very boring. And so on our boat, we don't use it. We get better feedback when we do the commentaries live, in the traditional way. So that's what we're doing here today. But bear in mind, we're only the crew, so don't expect too much. But I'll do my best. And we start up to the right-hand side with the London Eye. And it stands at 450 feet tall with 32 glass capsules. The reason why there are 32, there is a reason, and that's because there are 32 boroughs in London. So each capsule represents an area. And each capsule can carry 25 people. It continuously rotates at 1 mile per hour. You get on and off as it moves, and on a very clear day, a day like today, you'll see 30 miles across London from the top. You can hire out a glass capsule for £1,000. People even get married on there now there's been 500 weddings on the London Eye. And it's also in the top 10 places in the world for marriage proposals. So gentlemen, if you're feeling romantic, and if you're thinking about proposing to your lady while you're in London, why not take her up there? Take her up to the top of the London Eye. A nice place to do. Although, gentlemen, if you are thinking about doing that, one piece of advice: make sure she's going to say yes. Because if you get all the way up there to the top, to 12 o'clock, you get down on one knee, you ask her to marry you, and then she says no, it's going to be the longest 15 minutes of your life travelling back down with 23 people staring at you and a girl that doesn't like you. It could become a little bit awkward there. So be confident. Wave to the people on the bridge. It keeps their hands busy, you see. And it stops them throwing things at you, which they sometimes like to do. And on the right hand side, the Royal Festival Hall, and that's the last remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain in 1951. Many famous people have played inside, like Liza Minnelli, Michael Jackson, Elton John, even Frank Sinatra played in the Royal Festival Hall. And if you have your cameras, just on the left now, London's oldest monument, that stone column on the river wall, Cleopatra's Needle, said to be 3,500 years old, and it was given to us from a thankful Egyptian government for the victory over Napoleon and the French at the Battle of the River Nile. And there's a twin to that needle. They made them in pairs, and the twin is in Central Park, New York. Waterloo Bridge, we're passing beneath now. We look to the right hand side as we exit the bridge, the concrete building with the flashing signboard on the front. And it looks a little bit like a multi-storey car park. It isn't. It's actually London's Royal National Theatre. But you wouldn't think so to look at it. That building, it gets voted year after year as to be the ugliest building in London. I'm sure you'll agree. But an old saying, you mustn't judge a book by its cover. It applies to that building because inside are 3 of the best theatres in the country. And look over on the left, we've got a ship. The large white ship with the yellow funnel is called the Wellington, and it used to be in the New Zealand Navy, moored in London permanently today. That's a floating livery hall now, a drinking club for retired sea captains. And to become a member of that club, you must have been the captain of a ship at sea for 25 years. The head of that drinking club is the Queen's husband, Prince Philip. We often see Prince Philip and the Queen stumbling around on the front deck, reenacting Titanic after a few too many. We saw them about 3 weeks ago. They stumbled off of the ship. They stumbled into his Range Rover, and the rest speaks for itself. We all know what happened after that. On the right hand side is our beach. Look at that. No one knows we have some of the finest beaches in the world in London. A golden sandy beach. That'll be packed later on. People will be sunbathing over there. The children, they paddle in the polluted river. It's a great day out for the kids. And it's free, ladies and gentlemen. The red brick building on the right, we call it Stamford Wharf, a refrigeration warehouse years ago. Taken over by Oxo. They're a gravy company. And on top of the building, where the glass canopy is, that's a restaurant. The Harvey Nichols Oxo Tower restaurant. And it's said to be one of the top 10 restaurants in London. Great views over London from the top. And on the left, you can see a lot of work taking place on the river. You may have seen a television programme a few months ago. A huge engineering project. They're building a new sewer system for London. You may have seen it. It's going to take 10 years to build. A huge pipe going under the River Thames. And it's going to run from Putney, way behind us, all the way down through London to a place called Essex. And that's what we like to do with all the sewage in London. We send it to Essex. And the bridges, these are the Blackfriars bridges, the closest bridges together on the River Thames. The second one, that's a railway bridge. They've done a lot of work to it over the past 10 years. They've turned it into the first railway station to stand over the river. The platforms are above us as we pass it. It was all for the Olympic Games in London. They thought that so many people were going to rush to London for the Olympics. They needed a new station. So they built this, and they finished it about 6 months ago. So they've just finished out on the Olympics. We have the dome and the golden cross up to the left. St Paul's Cathedral, the masterpiece of Sir Christopher Wren. It took them 35 years to construct St Paul's at the price of only £75,000. It stands at 365 feet high, very easy to remember, a foot for every day of the year. Above the dome on St Paul's, where you see the railings, a viewing platform. You can stand up there and look over London. Although you do have to walk to the top. You have to climb up 527 steps. But the views, they're well worth the walk. You can actually visit St Paul's Cathedral for free if you go on a Sunday. Every Sunday you can go inside for free. You can watch the service. They don't charge you a penny. And what a great experience to see a service at St Paul's. Although you will notice at the end of the service, they only ask one thing. You'll see a gentleman. He walks around with a silver champagne bucket. They ask for donations. Most people, they put a note in. As I'm sure you can imagine, it's silent inside. A £5 or a £10 note. They love the silent collection at St Paul's. So it's well worth it. Any other day, I think they charge at £15 to go inside. And if you look on the right, the round white building with the thatched roof, a replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. The only building in London to be allowed a thatched roof since the Great Fire of London. You can go inside, you can watch a show being acted out in the traditional manner, with no stage lighting, no sound effects. There are no microphones in there. It's all done as it would have been done during Shakespeare's day. Again, it isn't very expensive, ladies and gents. The cheapest tickets they sell, they are only £5. And that's for the standing area. But £5 for live entertainment in London is great value for money. And is everyone enjoying the live commentary so far? Fantastic. Hopefully you can all understand me okay. I do try to speak a little bit slower, a little bit clearer for the Americans on board. Hopefully you can all understand. And there's a nice pub on the right hand side with the red windows. That's the Anchor at Bankside. And there's been a pub there since 1615, and it's a famous pub. It's starred in a few movies like James Bond, Mission Impossible, and Getting to the Green for a reason. Me and my friend driving the boat will visit that pub this evening. Every evening after work we go to that pub, and we go there to research, ladies and gentlemen. We research the commentary in there, you see. It takes us hours and hours, but it's all for you. On the right for the children, look in the dock, there's a pirate ship. That's a working replica of Francis Drake's Golden Hind. Francis Drake was the first Englishman to sail a ship around the world, and that ship has been around the world twice. It's in fully working order. And this bridge that we're approaching now, probably the most famous river crossing. This is London Bridge. It's commonly mistaken for the next bridge down, and that's Tower Bridge. This is the 5th London Bridge to stand here in 2,000 years. The first one was a wooden bridge built by the Romans, and it burned down. As I'm sure you know from the nursery rhyme, the song, most of the others fell down. All but one, the 4th London Bridge. It's in America today. It was sinking into the riverbed in the 70s. So we took it down, piece by piece, brick by brick. We sold London Bridge. We sold it to an American, a businessman called Robert McCulloch, and he shipped it to Arizona. He rebuilt London Bridge over Lake Havasu, where it still stands today. The tallest building up to the right hand side, the Shard of Glass, and it stands at over 1,000 feet high. Inside the Shard, a 6-star hotel, bars, restaurants, offices and apartments, designed by an Italian man, Renzo Piano, his name, a famous architect. And you can see the warship on the right hand side. This is HMS Belfast, built in the same shipyard as the Titanic, the ill-fated ship. She last saw action throughout the Korean campaign, and that's where she lost. Each gun fires a 100-weight shell, 14 land miles. A powerful ship. Permanently moored in London today, an extension on the Imperial War Museum. It's supposed to be stopping now on the left, but we'll take you a little bit further today. We'll take you down to the bridge. We'll give you a side-on view, so you can all take a nice photo. And Tower Bridge opened 1894. It was designed by a gentleman called John Wolfbarry. Designed in the Gothic style to blend in with the castle on the left, the Tower of London. It isn't as old as it looks. And as I'm sure that most of you know, Tower Bridge can be raised. It opens up like a double-sided drawbridge. It opens in less than 90 seconds to let any taller masted ships into this part of the river. Tower Bridge will open 350 364 days a year. There's only one day when the bridge will not open. Does anyone know which day? Most people think, naturally, Christmas Day. The only day where everything in London closes down. Tower Bridge still opens on Christmas Day. It opens New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Boxing Day, the Queen's birthday. The only day of the year that bridge will not open is the day of the London Marathon. Because the marathon runners, they actually run across the bridge. And apparently, if they open the bridge halfway through the race, it will spoil it. So they don't. Is anyone going to the Tower of London today? Oh, a few of you are. And you should be. This is London's most visited tourist attraction. Personally, my favourite. You could spend days in that building. It's steeped in history, and it's been many things in its time. It's been a royal mint where they made money, an observatory, a prison, a palace, and even a zoo at one time. Most famously known as a place of execution and torture. Look on the river wall to the right hand side. Look at that blocked up archway and the words "Entry to the Traitors' Gate." Now, if you were found guilty of treason years ago, if you were a traitor to the crown, you would have been rowed down to here from Westminster. You would have been rowed here by a waterman, someone like us, probably without the commentary, mind. And you'd have been rowed through London's first one-way street, taken to the bloody Tower, and that is where they would have chopped off your head. If you were famous in those days, it didn't end there. They would have dipped your severed head into a barrel of tar. They would have stuck it on a spike on London Bridge to warn off any traitors to the crown, which is pretty gruesome, eh? We don't do that in England anymore. We rehabilitate people instead. It works a treat, doesn't it? Cameras, communities, handbags, most importantly, your children. It's quite shocking the amount of people that like to leave children on this boat. Please don't. I have 10 at home now. They all speak different languages. No more kids. The very last thing we mentioned, it is only a word about the commentary along the way. As I said, me and my friend driving the boat, we are only the crew. We're here for your safety, so make sure that you and this boat go safely from A to B, as we have done today. And as I said, we do have a computer on board. You may have heard it on buses, maybe on other boats. It points out the buildings in a very boring way, and so we don't use it. Like I said, we get Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we're on the way down to Greenwich. We give you the safety announcement again as we leave the pier. For the benefit of the new passengers, just to let you know that the boat's equipped with the up-to-date life-saving equipment. Of course, the crew, then fully trained. Just sit back, relax, enjoy the very rare sunshine overnight. Along the way, I've been pointing out the places of interest, and I'll continue now with the commentary down to Greenwich. Now, we've got a few Americans on board today, and a bit of American history in front of me. I'll point it out as we come. But the area to the right-hand side, this is Bermondsey now. Butler's Wharf was a tea warehouse years ago, the largest tea warehouse in the world. Ships like the Cutty Sark, they travelled to Butler's Wharf from China, delivering chests of tea. They filmed Oliver Twist down that creek on the right-hand side, the famous musical. St Saviour's Dock is called, the dock head of Bermondsey. And it was down there where Fagin dropped the jewels into the sticky mud at the end of the film. A few new buildings on the left, the Green Glass Apartments, Hermitage Walk is called. A lot of the architects who work on the banks of the river, they work with a theme. They design buildings to look like something. It never works. And the buildings on the left, they're supposed to resemble French soldiers marching. Now look at them again, very carefully. Maybe squint a little bit, and you'll see they look nothing like French soldiers marching anyway. To me, they look more like a ship, and being next to the river, of course, that's what everybody does. And we stay to the left-hand side. If you follow the buildings along, you see the blue and white square building. And there's a pier next to it, the Wapping River Police. That's the name of the area to the left, Wapping. The bend we're travelling around is called Wapping Ness on the river. And the river police, they were invented to tackle piracy. Pirates were rife on the river years ago, and they say that 30% of cargo that came into London was lost. It was stolen, and the common form of punishment for piracy was execution. They hung the pirates. They hung them from the river wall on the left-hand side. They were not pronounced dead until 3 tides had risen above their head. They called it the Grace of Wapping, a famous execution carried out by the famous hanging judge, Judge Jeffreys, his name. And there's our base on the right-hand side, Cherry Garden Pier in Bermondsey. There's a nice pub on the right called The Angel, a pub that me and my friend researching very regularly. The nice thing about that pub is the view behind us, the lovely view of Tower Pier. So we finish work there every day, so it only takes us 2 minutes to walk along to The Angel. And we know them very well each day. And I mentioned it, a bit of American history here on the right hand side. We've just left Bermondsey and we're entering another area now called Rotherhithe. It's an old English word and it means river haven, a safe place. You can see the small white church spire on the right hand side. That's called St Mary's Church. Buried in the grounds of that church is a famous man, a man called Captain Christopher Jones. He was the captain of a very famous ship called the Mayflower. The ship that left London to go and carry the Pilgrim Fathers over to the Promised Land, to what we all now call America. Look at the pub on the right, the Mayflower. They've got the flag of the Stars and Stripes outside. Look on the roof of the pub, a bronze weather vane of the famous Mayflower ship. And I know quite a lot about the area. I was born there, you see. I was christened in that church, and I still live here today. I know quite a lot about Rotherham. I've got a good link with the Americans. And on the left-hand side, a few older buildings, a few buildings that still retain a bit of character, like New Crane Wharf, Metropolitan Wharf, and the little white building on the left, the oldest pub on the tidal part of the river, and it's called the Prospect of Whitby. That pub, it dates back 300 years. Originally, it was called the Pelican. It's had many nicknames over the years. One of them was the Devil's Punchbowl, because of the likes of people you would have found in that pub years ago. The criminals of London, thieves, murderers, ladies of the night. And if you go to that pub today, ladies and gentlemen, you'll notice it hasn't changed much. Because in that pub today, you'll find the criminals of London, bankers, estate agents, politicians. They all drink the Prospect. If you look inland on the left, very shortly, you'll see a grey building with a blue roof and the red helicopter on top. And this is the Royal London Hospital of Whitechapel. The helicopter isn't there today. That's the home of the London Air Ambulance. And Whitechapel, the area inland on the left, was where the Jack the Ripper murders took place. A number of young girls were killed by the so-called Jack the Ripper on the left. Look at the funny shaped red brick building on the left. Looks like it's been put together by a couple of kids with a Lego set. Free trade walk. And the architect of that building was very clever. He designed it so that every apartment inside there has a river view. And a river view doubles the price of every apartment. So they made maximum profit out of that development. Free trade walk. And you see lots of flats and apartments on the river. Not many houses. One really nice house is on the left-hand side. Look at the sandy coloured building with the round window at the top and the glass conservatory. The lovely garden, that is one house. It's called Sun Walk, and it was owned by David Lee. He was a film producer, and he produced films like Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, Passage to India, and he used to live there. Inside that house, 8 bedrooms, a 60-seat cinema, a rooftop pool, and a lovely garden. It's worth about £20 million. One of the nicest properties on the river. And you can see these little townhouses coming up on the left. Start to follow them along. Very shortly, you'll see a great flight of steps leading down onto the foreshore. And this is another pub. Don't get the wrong idea about it. To say we visit all of these pubs for research. And that's a lovely pub, that one. Made famous by Charles Dickens. It was in that pub where he wrote Great Expectations and Our Mutual Friend. And it's owned by a famous man today. Sir Ian McKellen owns that pub. He's better known to all of us as Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. He lives very close by to the pub. I'm not allowed to tell you where it is. He wrote a letter of complaint. True story. He said that he was being harassed. People turning up at his house all hours of the day. But if you do want to meet Sir Ian McKellen, he visits that pub every Wednesday for the quiz night. But don't harass him. The Canary Wharf development is on the left-hand side, and that is only the name of the area. The name of the tall building in the middle with the light at the top, number 1 Canada Square. Say Canary Wharf's only the name of the area. A very busy place, Monday to Friday. They accommodate over 100,000 bankers a day. Imagine that. 100,000 bankers in one place. I avoid it in the week. Way too busy for me. Of a weekend, it's a nice place to visit. Saturday, Sunday, a nice place to go for a meal, a few pints. But as I say, in the week, I avoid it. Absolutely full of bankers. And if you look down in front of us now, look left, look right, look left, look right, there's nothing to see. All we really have in this part of the river are apartments. And all I can tell you about these apartments is what you know already. They're very, very nice, they're very, very expensive, and I don't own any of them. We usually give you a bit of a break now. I can see a few of you are quite enjoying it. So if you'd like me to, I'll just tell you a little bit about the river itself. Is that okay with you? No problem. Well, everybody thinks that the River Thames is a very dirty river. It's known for it. In the 1800s, this river, it was our sewer. We pumped raw sewage into the River Thames. It killed all of the wildlife. It's a very different story today. They've cleaned it up. This is one of the cleanest industrial rivers in the world, with over 100 different species of fish. If you were to fish in this area, you'd catch perch, flounder, and the River Thames is famous for eels. It's crawling alive with eels. And in the summertime, the Chinese men, they stand on the banks of the river, they fish for the eels, and they eat them. It's a delicacy for them. A lot of Londoners eat eels. A traditional dish in London, pie and mash and jellied eels. Not all of us, mate. I don't eat eels. Not for me. Pie and mash, that's lovely, but no eels. There's a nice pie and mash shop in Greenwich, in fact, if you want to try a traditional London dish. Everyone thinks that our dish in London is fish and chips, and it isn't. That's what we have when we go down to the seaside, down to the coast. That's the best fish and chips. In London, it's pie and mash. The river still looks quite dirty, and that's because it's a mud-based river. So the riverbed is pure mud. And it's a tidal river. The tide floods into London from the North Sea for 5 hours. It then turns, it leaves London for 7 hours with a rise and fall of about 7 metres a day. At high tide, the water will be at the green line on the river wall. Now you can imagine that constant tide, it churns up the mud at the bottom of the river. The mud rises up to the top and it makes this water look quite murky, if you like. If you take a glass of river water, leave it for 20 minutes to set, all the sand and all the mud sinks down to the bottom of the glass. The water becomes crystal clear. So it's a very clean river today. We see seals in the River Thames almost every day. In the summertime, we see porpoises, which are like small dolphins. You may have read in the news recently, we had a beluga whale in the River Thames, a bit further down. And about 7 years ago, we had a 13-foot pilot whale swim through London. Swam all the way through the bridges past Westminster. It beached itself up a putt, and sadly it died. But it just goes to show you how clean the river is today. The area to the right, this is Deptford, an old naval town. This is where Henry VIII founded the Royal Navy. And look at those brown brick buildings on the right, the Vineyards of Deptford. That's where they made rum for the Royal Navy years ago. And rum, as I'm sure you know, It was a famous drink in the Navy. Without it, the sailors would not go to sea. They'd become sick, and I'll tell you why. They used to keep their fresh water in very large wooden barrels. They'd make their way out to sea, and after a month or two travelling at sea, the wood from the barrel would contaminate the water. All of the sailors, they'd become sick. So their theory was to create 100% rum. They did that in those warehouses. They tipped the rum into the barrel, and they thought the rum would sterilise the water and make it safe for sailors to drink. They called it grog in the Navy years ago. So a famous drink, and that's why it became famous in the Navy. Still Deptford on the right hand side. It's another old word, Deptford, an old English word, deep fall. It's a very deep part of the River Thames. And even on the low tide here, there's about 38 feet of water beneath the boat. And that's why, when we get the larger cruise ships coming into London, we tie them up here. Ahead of us on the right, you'll see the yellow mooring buoys in the river. And that's where we tie up the large cruise liners and the larger warships when they come into London. And they visit Greenwich regularly, the warships. It's a royal borough, you see. And there's only about 6 in the country. And this is one of them, a very well kept place. And Greenwich has just come into view ahead of the boat. You can see that 3-masted ship ahead of us. That's called the Cutty Sark. And that ship, it used to deliver tea to London from China and wool to London from Australia. She had the record time of travelling from Australia to London. A very fast ship, one of the fastest of her day. She did speeds of up to 30 knots under sail. And to put that into perspective for you, we are travelling now, ladies and gentlemen, at 12 knots with 2 big engines. And that ship, she sailed at 30, a great achievement. Look up behind the Cutty Sark, look at the tree line in the distance. Start to follow the trees along to the right hand side. Just coming into view now, you'll see a green dome-shaped building, and you'll see a red ball. It's on a T-piece, and that's a timepiece, folks. This is where you get Greenwich Mean Time. Every day at 5 minutes to 1, that red ball rises up to the top. When it gets to 1 o'clock, the ball drops, and that's where you all set your clocks from. 1 o'clock, Greenwich Mean Time. You've also got the meridian line up there, 0 degrees longitude, where east meets west. They call Greenwich the centre of the universe. And you've arrived, ladies and gentlemen, at the centre of the universe. And I thought you would have been a little bit more impressed. This is the centre of the universe. Whatever you do, definitely get off at Greenwich and have a look around. It's a lovely place. The 2 large white buildings are the naval colleges. That's where we trained and nursed our Royal Navy. Not today. Today, that's Greenwich University, a university of music. But you can go in there, you can have a look around. There's a tourist information centre inside, and it's very interesting. It's free to go in, so make sure you do that while you're here as well. Boats return from Greenwich all day today. The last boat will leave here this afternoon at 4:30. That's the last returning boat to London. This boat will leave at 10 minutes to 12. 11:50 we leave Greenwich. But you don't have to come back with us. Get off, have a look around, return a little bit later on. There are 50 pubs in Greenwich. Visit them all. Visit them all, folks. You'll enjoy it. I said earlier, make sure you take your belongings with you as you leave the boat. Don't leave anything on board to spoil your day. And I did mention a word about the commentary. As I said, me and my friend, we're only the crew. And we're here to take you safely from A to B. We do have a computer, a recorded commentary. We refuse to use it. On this boat, we get better feedback when we do the commentaries live. And as I said, they're all